Hey y'all. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today's been very chaotic as my life seems to be. How are you doing, Shannon?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to work, y'all. I told you last time it's Virgo season. Can y'all hear me this time? Last time I went on a rant about Virgo season and nobody heard it, but it is Virgo season.
Happy birthday. I don't think I got a chance to say
Thank
happy
you.
birthday to you on the day.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about this, y'all. If you learn something about me, I'm an extreme workaholic and I'm always working. And this was the first day I told my wife, this is the first time I think in 3 years where I genuinely was able to relax for my birthday and not do a single thing but relax with my son and just have fun like a kid. So I feel good. I had a good week, real productive, and today I was like way more focused to try to get stuff done. So I haven't been as family focused today, but it all seems made up for because I spent so much time with him earlier this week. But yeah, I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
That's
And
good.
how
That's
are y'all
good.
doing?
I'm glad you got a chance to chill and relax on your birthday as you should.
Mhm.
Today's been chaotic for me. I've been running around like a chicken with the head cut off. It's been crazy, but we here and we live, and I'm ready for us to get into this conversation because uh these children out here, man, these children out here are wilding. Okay, they're wilding out.
Yeah, this is something. Now this is gonna be my first time hosting, quote unquote, again. So I don't know if I'm asking questions. You tell me how you want it to flow. I think we're gonna be able to have a really good conversation. And I do want to tell you all, if you have children of your own, especially teenagers and younger children, I think you should share this stream with them, have them check it out, and ultimately, the point of me being on the podcast is to help. I want to be able to help and give some good guidance, and I think these conversations only do that. But the fact that we have a call-in option, make sure you have your children tune in and ask questions. I think this is the perfect platform for it. No judgment as long as it's respectful, and I think we can have a great conversation with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think people in general, we struggle with being lost, and the younger generation, they have it a lot harder than we did, at least in my opinion, because of the access that they have. Whereas, like when we were, it's like a blessing and a curse because the access for some can be very helpful, with them finding themselves and figuring things out. Whereas too much access for some people creates a problem, and then they have a harder time figuring out who they are, and being easily swayed into some foolishness. So I'm really interested to have this conversation because uh I mean, if we don't have if the future is not um ready to take control when the time comes, then society as a whole is going to continue to deteriorate. But yeah, so if you have questions, definitely hit the link and call in. But in the beginning of the stream, we're just gonna have a conversation about it in the first place, and then we'll start bringing people up to have the conversation with us. So where do you want to take this, Shannon?
All right, so yeah, I had some questions, but you actually brought something more interesting up. You said when they have access, and I'm curious to know what access to what specifically are you talking about when you say that?
Yeah, so essentially, with the internet, you have access to all kinds of perspectives, right? So conversations that you wouldn't have been able to have with maybe your parents, or your parents wouldn't have included you in on these type of conversations. Now, children at their fingertips are able to access, things going on in the Gaza Strip, things going on everywhere, social conversations like there's a conversation around the manosphere and then feminism and just all these different things. Children now, they have access to that information, whereas they had to kind of learn about it within their community, or if their parents were giving them access to that, then they will be included in those conversations. But now, if your child has a phone, you have no idea. You have no idea the conversations your child is being included in or a part of, and that could be a blessing or a curse depending on what it is.
Okay, so I agree with that, and that's good. So it's so many angles you can come to this conversation with. So I wanted to ask right here, first of all, do we think it is our duty to set the next generation up? So this is excluding your children and thinking about just that next generation as a whole. And I guess don't even just say the next generation, just say future generations because we got so many that we have to consider.
Yeah, that's so true. See, my perspective on it is I prefer a more collective society. I think in recent times we've gone to very individualistic societies where everyone's just concerned about themselves. That's why whenever you make a critique, a social critique about anybody, everyone's like, mind your business. Why do you care? And I care because I believe in community. I believe in us working together as a community to move the needle forward because without community, without having that accountability to one another, what are we doing here as a society? It's going to continue to deteriorate as it has been. So I do feel like us as the older generation, we do owe it to the younger generations to make the world better for them, to give them better access than we had. And unfortunately, the generations prior to us did not have that same sentiment. They didn't. I'm sorry. The boomers and
Mm.
Gen X were very selfish. Okay. They had a lot of selfish tendencies, and that's not all, but a lot of them did. That's why you had the culture of, oh, once your kid turns 18, kick them out the house. Um, where they're sitting over here chastising younger people for not having a house and the kids by age 25, but it's like, Susan, houses have tripled, quadrupled in price, and the minimum wage has barely gone up. It's not even in line with how expensive all of these things are. We don't live in the same America y'all did when you were able to buy a house for like $100,000, 40, you know what I mean? Like y'all had a completely different America, and y'all did not preserve that America for us through like legislation and allowing inflation to get out of control. So I really feel like the older generations failed us, but that doesn't mean we then fail the next generations. We have to then take control of it and reshift and shift it in a different direction.
So how can we, if we say the generation before us was selfish, and we talk about all the things they didn't leave, all the things they didn't provide, and we are going right now with a lot of the same principles that the past generation left us, how do we then not be selfish also?
And see, that's the $1 million question. That's $1 million question because it's not even just we have to understand is that the mentality also gets passed down. There's a lot of us walking around with, well, I had to go through it, so now you have to. And it's like that's a bit toxic, right? That's kind of a toxic mentality to have about things. Well, just because I went through these struggles, now you have to go through these struggles. I think character can be built, but it's not why are we still trying to have the younger generations go through the struggles of old when there's new struggles developing? So now they have to not only deal with the struggles of old, they also have to deal with the struggles of new. So it's too much, and you see a lot of folks now are just crumbling under the pressure. A lot of folks have just given up entirely. To they don't even care to try. That's why bed rot is a whole thing. I don't know if you've heard about that, but there is a huge, have you heard about
Explain it to
that?
me. I think I've heard of the term, but explain what you when you say bed right, what are you talking about?
So
Sitting in the
there's this
bed all
big
day?
trend, yes, but it's intentional, right? So there's this giant trend that's on TikTok where you have grown adults sitting around saying that they're just gonna bed rot. They're not even gonna bother getting out of bed. They're not even gonna bother trying because what's the point? And it's hard to argue with that because a lot of the way society is framed, it makes us say, what's the point? I go out, I try to get a job, I get a full-time job that's working 40 hours a week, and I can't afford basic necessities. So a lot of people have just checked out entirely when it comes to society, and then they just say, look, I'm just gonna rot in the bed. I'm just gonna lay in bed, scroll through TikTok, eat junk food, and do nothing with my life. So we have
And
to I'm sorry.
now I was gonna ask what generation. So I'm not aware of the the trend. I'm probably one of the worst social media folks you ever meet. I'm never really on TikTok. I don't know what's happening most of the time. But that term bed rot and that whole phenomenon of bed rot, what generation do you see partaking in this most? Is this a lot of people in our generation or this
I think
upcoming
it's
generation?
like I think it's like it's millennial, like lower end millennials, so the younger millennials through Gen Z. That's what I see. I see the younger millennials like you and me, and then Gen Z are partaking in this bed rot culture. And it's absolutely insane. A lot of people have just given up. And I think 2020, 2021 was a big catalyst for all of this.
Okay, and that's what you talking about COVID when that happened, or
Yeah. Yeah, when society kind of shut down and a lot of people lost their jobs and they started getting on unemployment, and it was like, oh, well, if I go out and get a job, I'm going to be making less money than I'm getting on unemployment. So why get a job? And so, when you start, because that's a logical conclusion to come to, right? Why would I get off of unemployment to go have less? There has to be a pros and cons. You have to yeah, I mean, a logical person is not going to lower their income um, for something that's not guaranteed and then not
yeah,
be able to cover their bills. So, it's just the younger generation, they have to, not just the younger generation, our generation as well. We have to see the point in coming together as a community to solve these problems, because this individualistic nature that we've had since I want to say this really started like maybe like the 40s up until the 40s and then leading up until now. This massive individualistic nature is just, it's ruining society as a whole.
Okay. I know we're talking about kids, so I'm trying to keep it on topic. But when we talk about that individualization, I really want to talk about that, especially in our communities, because I think our community, I think we have it so bad. We could probably build so much more together. You know what? I got a random thought I just thought about. Think about how myself and Justin both make games. We both make video games. And we could literally make a business together where we make video games together and push that out. Now, this is not something we've ever really talked about, but the fact that we didn't think, like the fact we haven't talked about it and we've known each other for over 10 years, that kind of comes back to this conversation that I think about when we talk about the youth and what we're actually teaching our youth. Are we teaching our youth how to build? Are we teaching them how to network? Are we teaching them how to utilize other people's strengths to maximize your time? Yeah, go ahead. Off of that, do you have anything to add to that? Because I know that was a lot.
No, no, like I agree. It's just, our community really has pushed for that individualist, mentality. And I think that was a trauma response to respectability politics, which that's a whole nother conversation. It's like, well, I shouldn't have to do this for the collective. It's this all about me, 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 me. But that's in trend with society, American society in general. It's a lot of me, 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 me. So it's not even just like a black thing, it's an American thing. We really struggle with having that community. And I think the South has retained a little bit more of the South has retained a little bit more of that community, but they're still very individualistic. But then once you get into those major cities, man, no one cares about community at all. No one cares.
Okay. And yeah, if you have a topic that you want to talk more about, let me know. I'm not good at actually
No,
navigating
you're
this whole
good.
thing because I'll be all over the place. But I do
No, we can
wonder
go
when we
all
talk
over the
about
place.
okay, we talk about this next generation. If we do have young folks hopping in, have you personally heard the cries of the younger generation looking for anything in particular that we could help out with?
um, a lot of the younger folks, you could see them in these online communities reaching out. Like you can see it. That's why like the manosphere was so big. That's why all these different communities are so big on the internet, because a lot of these kids, they feel isolated. Not just kids, but young adults feel isolated in where they physically are, but then the internet has given them an entire oyster, an entire community of people that they wouldn't normally have access to within their physical community. So, you know, and I remember Leah, she would be in the chat all the time talking about how, you know, she doesn't resonate with a lot of people her age, and she would be coming to the streams to have those adult conversations and keep game on things that she's not having access to, you know, as a senior in high school. So I have seen it, and I think that where we can help is one, by being of the community ourselves, right? We have to lead by example. So, you know, whether it's you growing your community on your channel and creating that atmosphere where people can come together and grow, or, you know, similar for me, having my platform and trying to bring people together to have that community, building up my Discord server, because a lot of people, their relationships are virtual. So we have to meet people where they are, and just opening the door for that communication and showing that we can come together, we can have community, even if the community aspect of it is going to look a little bit different given the internet, right?
Yeah. Okay. I see that, and I'm trying to think. Right when you said that, and I was about to say something, I saw just a message in Discord, and it threw me off. Um, we we talk about you talk about you had Leah reaching out, and she was a senior in high school, and she said that she really couldn't connect with a lot of folks her age. And I'm trying to see. I've had this conversation so many times. Do you think we're actually going full circle to a more optimistic youth from what, let's say, from our us growing up, right? We saw the selfish generation do different things, and now that we're older, we get to see what the side effects of them are, right? Because a lot of them are older now, but we couldn't see it then. It looked like they were having fun and enjoying life. Now it actually looks like this new generation gets to see our grandparents and the elders in our community suffering in different ways, and they're making better decisions, or being more cautious about the decisions they're making. So do you think that this generation we have coming in right now, let's say the high schoolers, because I met a lot of them who were very aware of what was going on in the world, do you think that we're going towards a more optimistic future with this newest generation that's coming in?
Yeah, I think in a general sense, society tends to be on like a pendulum. I believe that's the correct term, where you know, we go from one extreme to the next, and then in the middle there's this grace period where things are fabulous. Okay, where things are, you know, calm and together. And usually we have like economic booms, social booms, societal booms during that time period where we're in the middle and it's more balanced, and then it swings out of control and we end up with the opposite problem. So
Mhm.
I think this younger generation, they do have the opportunity to move that pendulum back to that balanced position, at least for a little bit. um, and it all depends, because this could either start to get better or it could get even worse. And you know, it's a bit scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit scary because of the conversation we had last stream about Neuralink and all that stuff, and the
Yeah.
different problems that that's going to create, that the newer generation is going to have to figure out, on top of figuring out the problems of old, you know. So that could make things even worse. So, you know, I do think that the younger generation, they are the underdogs, and we're rooting for them. Okay, we're all rooting for them.
Yeah. 100%. My heart goes out to a lot of the folks in this younger generation right now, because I think a lot of them are in this invisible stage of life, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because of the trauma that the millennial generation has gone through. I'm just saying how we put it out there, the trauma that the millennial generation has gone through. We're still so much about ourselves. We're still so selfish, still trying to live our lives. And I think we are at the age now where we should be pouring back into the community at our current ages. I think we're still just self-absorbed with what we can do as far as our own lives. And we got Riley Holbrook in here. Welcome in, Riley. So
Hey,
my heart goes out to this invisible generation because I do think that they want to learn, but as you mentioned with the amount of access, what do you learn from who? Where do you start? What is the most important? How
yep,
much is college even going to be something? But right now, I see so many kids in a dilemma of do I go to college right now and try to go into any debt at all to get a degree when I know that college students aren't even able to go to college graduates aren't even able to find work right now. That right there is I can't even imagine that stress level. And we just have so many of them. So my heart goes out to them. And I do want you guys to know that you do have people in the community who are available, who do want to help wherever we can. If it's answering questions, if it's one-on-one guidance in different ways, whatever it might be. I think that it's very valuable for you to find mentorship in some capacity and mentorship in an area, not an all around mentor, because those are hard to come by. But one area of your life where you think you could use some help, find a mentor and try to do what you can there.
absolutely. And that's what I was mentioning earlier about access. It's like they have access to wonderful, people that are well spoken, and they have a good grasp on reality, and they can lead them in the right direction. They have access to that, but then they also have extreme access to predators, people that want to convince them to waste their time and their money on some BS. And misery loves company. We know this, and a lot of older people and millennials, because we're not. I wouldn't say we're older. Okay, I wouldn't say we're older quite yet, but a lot of us are bitter. Okay, we're bitter, and that bitterness is going to want more company because there's a lot of people that are in competition with the various generations, and I think that this comes from a generational. You so stupid, Justin. No, I'm not older. Okay. I think this comes from a generational arrested development type of situation. I think millennials are, in a general sense, in that state of arrested development where we're not able to progress past a certain point. That's why you have so many millennials that are like, F them kids, and not taking on that role of mentor guider, too busy in competition with them, and because they never got where they needed to go, so they don't even see themselves in a position of, hey, I need to be guiding. I need to be teaching. This is now my role. No, they still trying to be out there with the whippersnappers. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you touched on a whole nother thing when we talked about the current generation being in competition with the generation below, because we see this a lot when we talk about single parents still out in the dating world, and then they have children who turn into adults, and now the adult children and the parent are fighting for the same type of people at this point because of whatever it might be. So we have it's so layered. And I see Riley, and we got Black in there. Black Riley, what's going on, y'all? Black said to tear down. Well, first of all, Riley, she said, "Hello, everyone. Hello, Sandra. Many younger people are going to church and wanting tradition. That's a good sign. They are rebelling against rebellion." That is true. And that is actually where I met a lot of the young folks that I'm talking about now was at church. And when you see the outpour, like that, the fact that they are hungry for it, they want it, it is something that changes your whole perspective on life, and you stop thinking so much about yourself and thinking about what you can do for this incoming generation. And then something that Black said right after that, Black said, the tear down of relationships cause our downfall.
I agree with that 1000%. I really do.
Tear
The
down.
Yeah, because and you know, home math, okay, me and Justin, we've been we've been binge watching this channel called Home Math, and he breaks it down so meticulously. And with that rise of promiscuity and you know, the tear down of community, the tear down of tradition, that's how we end up in the situation that we're in. And the example that he gave, which I think is so relevant to what we're talking about, is a brick house, right? And all of us are individual bricks, okay? And when one brick decides to go off and do its own thing, right, goes off to do its own thing, and then we all decide to go off and do our own thing, do we still have a brick house? No, we don't. We just have a pile of rubble. It's no longer a brick house. It's so good. I'm gonna have to send that video to you. It was so, I need to
Yeah,
stop doing the bird hands. It was so good. um
and it's
but
what's the name of it again? What's the name of the show?
Home math.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought an
Yeah.
M was missing, and I was trying to make sure I wasn't. Okay, okay, all right. We're
Yeah,
gonna check
no,
that out.
that's what it's called. And his channel is so good. He breaks it down. He has charts and everything. And the way he broke down the way society has just kind of gone downhill, meticulous and to the point. And it's true. Our individualistic nature is the reason why we don't have a house anymore. We just have a pile of bricks that are doing nothing. Okay, they're doing nothing. It's literally the collapse of society.
And it's literally what you said. We don't have a house is a literal thing because we have so many individual homes now. Where you have to think about you went from a family, let's say a family of three. We have a wife, a husband, a child that would have required one home. Now the home is broken up. So the wife or whatever you want to call it at that point, the split mom and the split dad both need their own properties. And then when the child gets older, he needs his own property. So you went from one for a while to two to three. And then if you just keep multiplying that, because it just multiplies, you see why we have such a well, part of why we have a housing shortage, is that fact. But supply and demand, we learned
Yeah.
this with microeconomics in college. This is original stuff that you understand the basics of it and you get to see it play out in real time. And we got to see it. Like we see it play out in real time. It is insane.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know where to take it from. Those were the questions I had. So wherever you want to go with it now, we can flow. I wish people would call in if we had some people that's brave to come
Yeah,
in and
we
share
do.
their opinion.
We have the link and I'll post it again. I'll post the link again if anyone wants to share their thoughts on the topic. I just, we have that optimism there because I agree. A lot of the younger generation are trying to move back towards traditional traditional values. A lot of young people are not out here having promiscuous relations with just randos. That whole club culture seems to be dying down. But the propaganda machine doesn't want everybody to know that. Okay, they want everyone to think that the younger generations are completely still going downhill, right? They want that message to still be out there to try to capture the mind of those who are still maybe on the fence. They're not sure if they want to be more modern or be more traditional. So have you heard of those teen takeovers that have been happening in the different cities?
Not at all. What is it? Is it good or bad?
Oh, it's bad. It's very bad. So there
Uh,
was one in particular that I remember back in Chicago, and this happened a few years ago where it was just like a bunch of teenagers stormed the north side of Chicago and they were tearing up the city. It was a mess. It was just a bunch of teenagers everywhere tearing up the city, tearing up people's property. People couldn't drive through the city without their car being vandalized or them being attacked. And it was just a bunch of teenagers, and they organized it, I believe, on like TikTok or one of these social media sites, and plan to do that. I think this has happened in a couple other cities as well. And that's the part, because there's some optimism, but then, like I said, it could go either way. Things could start getting better or it could just get even worse, because you have a lot of these teens that they see a TikTok trend of some foolishness and they go out and they do it. And it's like, did you not think about this for 2 seconds? You didn't even think about this for 2 seconds. And even if we go a generation younger, a lot of the kids can't read and write. And I know this from actually interacting with the children around that age, elementary and middle school. A lot of them can barely read, can barely write. You have sixth graders that are reading at a third grade level, barely. You have sixth graders that can barely write a simple sentence, let alone a complex sentence. They can't do it. And it's very, or even just spelling basic words, which I understand why that happens because we have spell check. I mean,
Yeah.
we grew up in a time before spell check was super big, so we still had to learn how to spell. But with these kids, that's all they have is spell check, so they don't even see the purpose in learning how to spell anything. So it's just like I said, it could go either way. We can either get better, and there are some younger generation, people in the younger generation that are trying to make things better, but we do have that other side of it where can't read, can't write, do anything they see on social media, do anything for clouts, nuisance streaming, things like that.
Oh,
So
yeah. And I guess that, wow. Yeah, you mentioned a couple things. First of all, teen takeover is insane. I didn't know that was a thing until just now. And I remember when I was growing up, Detroit, we used to have these fireworks every year, and they would do basically that, but it would just be Detroit kids, and it was always a shooting every single time, every single fireworks. It made you avoid events because every event it just got overrun by teenagers. I saw in Chicago they were shutting down McDonald's locations. You can't even come in if you're under a certain age. They put
yep.
curfews on that. So I can see that happening. Now, the thing that you hit on that really did concern me is the kids with the reading. And that is something my son is homeschooled, and I talk about this all the time because I have extremely high expectations for my son. I really know what he's capable of and try to push him. But the fact that the kids are not able to read, what I'm trying to figure out what happens next, because that is the cornerstone of all education is knowing, understanding how to read. And if we have so many kids left behind, are they going to try to adjust the curve to accommodate that? Do we lower the bar? It's just going to be a lot of fit. I'm curious to see where we go with that. And yeah, with your background, I would like to know if you have any insight on what that might look like going forward.
See, what that's going to look like is people are going to rely on other people to tell them what's happening. So rather than actually reading a study, and we already see this happening now, where someone will make a claim and they'll post the study and they'll say, "Trust me, bro. Uh, trust me, bro. This is what the study says." But folks don't actually take the time to go read the study, because sometimes the study, if you actually read it, contradicts whatever the hell that talking head said. But they don't even go through, they don't even take the time to read it. But because you have a lot of people that can't read now, the idea doesn't even cross their head to read the source, to see what it says for themselves. So it's very tricky, it's very unfortunate. But what's going to happen is the the standard is going to continue to drop, because no one let me put it this way: society isn't going to acknowledge the problem as it is. They're not. They're going to gloss over it, they're going to pretend like it doesn't exist. And the only way they can do that is if they lower the standard for everything. Okay. If they lower the standard and then these kids are meeting that now lowered standard, they get to say, "Hey, everything's fine," when everything is not fine. So
So so if that's the perspective, it would make sense for parents to homeschool.
yeah.
That would be now even more advantageous because you can control, as long as you're an active parent where you're actually teaching them. But now you actually do get to control the pace at which your child can learn, right?
Yeah, but the problem is, everyone is just grifting off into these different groups and trying to be edgy with it. They have this whole thing of unschooling, which basically means not schooling at all. just letting your child just figure things out as they go without any type of direction, any type of like, oh, if they ask you something, then you answer it. But other than that, just go on about your life. Like it's a whole thing. And it's just, if we don't have the fundamentals, then you can teach, you can get anybody to do anything. If they don't understand, they don't know how to read the fine print, they don't know how to critically think. That's why, and Justin, he's interacted with Justin, JF, and myself. We've all interacted with somebody that is part of that captured generation where all they believe is just whatever they see on social media. They have no critical thinking skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, there are some glimmers of hope, but I don't know how big that glimmer is. Okay. I don't know how big that is. And it's just, like I said, things can go either really bad or get better. But us as the older generation, we really need to set the tone, because we're not holding the younger people to a higher standard. We're allowing them to just be however they are, and then just say, oh, we're being inclusive, oh, we're, let people live, don't shame them. Why are you shaming? We need to bring shame back. That's how I really feel about a lot of this. We need to bring shame back, because I remember, and I don't know if this happened to you, but when I was in school, if I messed up while I was reading, I felt very ashamed. Okay. I would be sitting there. If we were doing the reading where you go in a specific order, I would count how many people were in front of me, and I would count what paragraph was going to be mine. And I would sit there and practice it. Because you weren't going to catch me being illiterate. You weren't going to catch me struggling. I was literally going through and rereading the paragraph, and I would be shook if I accidentally counted wrong and I was on the wrong paragraph. I'd be rushing to figure it out. So there was a bit of shame there for not being able to read. But we have this, oh, don't shame them society, so people don't care anymore. Oh, I can't read, oh, no big deal, don't shame me, don't shame my parents, accept me as I am. It's like, no, get your ass a reading rainbow, get you some reading rainbow and start reading, because this is shameful. You should be able to read at a certain level by a certain age.
I agree. And I do hope if you oh, actually, nah. See, we're talking on parents, and I don't want to. It is what it is. Honestly, if you have a child, it is your duty to put your child in the best situation that you possibly can. And I think the best thing you can do is give them knowledge. And even better, if you can give them knowledge on how to acquire knowledge, I think you set your child up for a lot of success. The cornerstone to that is reading. They have to be able to know how to read instructions. It's not always guaranteed that YouTube and the internet serve all the service we have with the videos that won't always be accessible. And even scarier with the rise of AI, we're starting to have to question what is real and what is not in video. So you can't even assume that video is real. One thing I have yet, these old school books that we had, with these old school books we used to have in the library, we see we at least knew that that was real. That was real content. That wasn't generated content at that point in time. So you always have books to rely on. The Bible, for me, is a book that you can go and you can get the paper version of that book and read it. But a lot of stuff that you are going to have in the world nowadays, is no telling where it's coming from. And if you can't read and get to the source, you're setting yourself up for trouble, like big time trouble.
Absolutely. And I really love that point that you brought up about learning how to get information, right? You should be able to, if you don't know something, you should know how to figure it out, how to find out more information and learn about it. And when I had my time in education, that was a big thing that because a lot of kids, you would tell them like, hey, what's a better word for this? And they wouldn't even know they wouldn't even think to go get a thesaurus or use an online thesaurus to find out more words, or even just type in online like, hey, what's another word for this? They didn't even think to do that. They would just sit there and blankly stare at me. And I was like, look, it's okay that you don't know. I'm not upset with you for not knowing other words for this, but use your resources. It's okay that you don't know, but know that you can use your resources and find out more information. Because, once you have that skill, you can do anything. Once you know how to learn, you can literally do anything. But a lot of folks, they just wait for you to tell them the answer because they haven't even been taught that they can go find the answer themselves. They've been taught that they have to wait for somebody else to explain it to them, as opposed to going and finding that information themselves. And that's the scary part, because then they could be told anything.
Anything. It's the reason why we weren't allowed to use Wikipedia growing up, because when we had to do essays and we used Wikipedia, anybody could go inside of Wikipedia and change it to anything. So we had to actually get books. We had to actually get books and cite our sources in the books, because any custom website you couldn't just pass. And on top of it, we had limited information back then when we were growing up. Now you can type in. I remember I had to do an essay in 8th grade about Tanzania. Anyway, it had to be an 8-page essay or something like that. And I could not find hardly any information on this country. Now, if you type it in, you're gonna find whole documentaries about the country, probably, where you can just go and watch everything. So you have to be even more intentional about making sure your children are able to find information or find different things, because everything is so easy to get access to, and you don't want to become dependent on being able to get everything so fast. Just like a calculator. You should be able to add basic numbers and multiply basic numbers, even if you don't have a calculator, because you won't always have one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you go to the grocery store, if the system shuts down and now they got to do everything by hand, and they're trying to figure out your change, and they stare at you, they give you that Gen Z stare. Like, you can't, you don't know how to. And then it's not even just that, they don't even think to get their phone. Like, it's not even just that they can't do the math calculation in their mind. They don't even think about other resources that they have. Like, if you can't figure it out, I'm sure you got a phone. You could type the equation into your phone, but they just, it's like a one-track mind. It's like, it's almost, this is what it's really going towards. It's going towards basically the society that they have in China. Chinese people, and I'm not talking about all, but when I lived in China, they were very one-track minded. So if they were taught to do it one way, that's the only way they do it. So doing anything outside of that, they kind of malfunction. I don't know. Did I ever tell you the story about my cheese pizza experience in China?
No, never.
Man.
Are you gonna tell us?
Yes. So
Okay.
this was when me and Justin, we were together at the time. Well, together because it was an online thing. But he was on the phone with me, and I had recently stopped being vegan, right? So I was I was more vegetarian. So I was eating like dairy and things like that. So I was like, you know what? I want a cheese pizza. I wasn't quite ready to eat meat yet. So I was like, let me go get a cheese pizza. And I go to a pizzeria. Okay. I sit down and I'm looking at the menu. They don't have cheese pizza on the menu. They have because China, their recipes are a little weird. Like, they'll have odd things on Americanized food. So like, you would see a pizza with like, I don't even know, like odd ingredients that you would never associate with a pizza. And I was sitting there, I was like, you know what? I don't want that, but they have a build your own option. So I call the waiter over and I tell them, yes, JF, they probably do have an egg roll pizza. I call the waiter over and I tell them, and I translate it multiple times, I want a cheese pizza. This is all I want. I want crust, sauce, cheese. That's it. It took me about 30 minutes to order that pizza. I translated it first, and then he was pretending like he knew what I meant. Well, didn't know. So he had to come back. And so now I have the menu in front of me. I point to the different items. I was like, Jega, Jega, Jega. That's it. And Jega just means this. And I pointed to the crust. I pointed to the sauce. I pointed to the cheese. still had no idea what I wanted. And the reason being is because once they're trained to do something one particular way, they were trained that this is our menu, that's it. Once they're trained to do something one particular way, anything outside of that, they don't know how to act. They don't know how to respond to that. So it took me 30 minutes for them to figure out that I just didn't want the meat option because they had all of the ingredients I was looking for in the build your own. I just didn't want any meat. I even told them, "Wabuchi ro. I don't eat meat." And they still, it was just like, couldn't figure it out. So it took me 30 minutes to order a cheese pizza. And Justin was on the phone with me the entire time.
It's crazy because if I was working, first of all, that experience is insane. 30 minutes for a cheese pizza. But I
At a
have to think if
pizzeria.
I was working at a pizzeria, if I was working fast food there, it would probably be a much smoother experience than here because we give people too many options. And you can change and take everything or put everything on whatever you want. And that would be much simpler to just say this is what we get, this is what we have, 5 things. But to build your own pizza, that yeah, that's confusing. That's confusing. But yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of us, what me and Ron King, oh man.
Yeah.
I'm
It
trying to
was it
see
was
if
insane.
anybody. Yeah,
It was insane.
I want to see somebody call in that has a different or a different perspective or a perspective that might give us more insight and open up the conversation for it. Have you had people
Absolutely.
call in before in the past?
Um man, I used to do call-in shows when my YouTube channel was a baby. Okay, before I
Mhm.
even hit 1,000 subs, I used to do call-in shows. But I haven't really done any recently. I've been a little afraid to do call-ins because people are crazy. People are absolutely crazy. They call in, they try to get your channel taken down because they want to do or say something that's against community guidelines. And it's just like, man, like it's one thing
Yeah,
if folks call in and they have a different perspective. I'm fine with that. We can talk. But you have a lot of people out here are very vindictive, and they
yeah,
just they'll call in and put you know, something sexually suggestive on the screen, and then you got to shut the stream down, and it's insane. I can't. I That's the reason why I've been a little hesitant. Justin's been wanting me to do a call-in show on my main channel, but and that's why we even have it set up now where when you call in, they'll be able to hear you, but they won't be able to see you because people are insane.
yeah,
But I definitely do want people to call in. JF says he'll call in a little bit, but let's see. Yeah, Ron King, if you want to call in, that'd be cool. I think I've only heard your voice like one time, and that was actually no, twice, because you sent two voice notes in the Discord, one of which you were just laughing, which I thought that was so funny. But yeah, we're talking about the youth. Like, can they be saved? Or do you see this as a hopeful situation? Or, is it just a lost cause? Because I try not to be too pessimistic, because when I get pessimistic, I'm like, just bring the meteor and call it a day. That's the type of pessimist I become when I become pessimistic. So I'm trying hard not to be like that, especially since I got kids. Like, I want the world to be a better place, especially since my kids are going to be out there in the world. That's why that whole notion of mind your business, you know what I mean? Like, why do you care? I hate that. I hate to see a ratchet person type that in the comment section, or say that anywhere, because it's like, yes, I do care. Because guess what? My kids have to now grow up and be in the world with your crazy ass kids, or with you and your crazy self. So I think that for us to guide the youth, we have to get rid of that mind your business mentality. We have to remove that from our vernacular, from our dialect. We have to stop saying mind your business and why do you care? Because, even if we just think about it at a logical level, what is a society? A society is a accumulation of people. And if the people are not on the same accord, if they have no cohesion whatsoever, then things will just inherently be chaotic. Okay. They will just inherently be chaotic. You know what I mean?
yeah. And Pomo said, "You remind You remind me of why I don't have kids.
And what makes you say that? What makes you say
That's what I'm
that?
curious. I'm curious though about that. Because I when you say the
Man.
meteor, that always puts me in a different state of mind where I think about, oh man, yeah, your kids, and they're gonna want to have kids. But I think I'm about 2 or 3 generations removed. So whatever happens to like 2 or 3 generations from me, I think I can deal. Or 3 generations from me, I can handle that because I'll probably be gone. But my son and then their kids, that's man, that's tough. I want us to have a world here. And then man, we have to do better with the environment too, then. Because I know I haven't been doing my part with whatever we need to be doing.
Well,
I haven't been doing my
I'm
part.
gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with the whole environment, and this is completely off topic, but I don't know if I'm 100% sold on climate change. I don't know. I feel like the earth in a general sense goes through its own changes, and it's been going through its own changes. It goes through, like I said, everything is on that pendulum, where it's constantly going back and forth. And I think that a lot of the environmental things that people are claiming is just the earth going through the motions of what the earth goes through. And I think that having and I don't know if I want to get too deep. Okay. I think that society always needs to have some kind of villain. Okay. We need to have something that we're fighting, something that we're, fighting against or fighting for. And I think that and they kind of highlight that in Watchmen. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, Watchmen.
I saw it so long ago. I don't remember what happened. It was the superheroes
Yes.
or something like
So
that. Yeah.
essentially you had the world was in chaos, and they were about to believe I believe they were about to have like nuclear war and things like that. So one of the superheroes ends up sacrificing himself to become the villain that the world unites to try to fight. So that was essentially what the ending of the movie was one of the superheroes. He was, one of the higher level thinking superheroes. He thought about this for quite some time, and he was like, look, they all need a villain. I'll be that villain. I'll be the bad guy, so that the world could unite and stop with, trying to destroy each other. So I think climate change is one of those things where it's a manufactured problem. And rather than calling these things what they are, they're like, oh, it's climate change. But no, it's just the earth going through motion. So the earth heats up, it cools down. It heats up, it cools down. So I think that that's what it is. And then also, I think that with the environmental stuff, a lot of it is trying to shift us towards something that can be controlled. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Mm.
like I feel like they how do I say this? I feel like what was I saying?
You
I
were
had the
saying you feel
thought
like it's
and then it
controlled.
escaped me. Oh, okay. So with everything shifting to electric, that gives governing bodies more control because they could just shut your stuff off. It's easy to unplug you. Whereas, like, if you have gas, you have access to gas, you can store up gas and you'll be good. With electricity, it's much easier to control. So you so
Mm,
silly,
okay.
Jay. I'm talking about somebody didn't watch the Lorax and it's showing.
Ye- The Lorax, is that the one with the orange? Is that like the Dr. Seuss thing? Or am I thinking
Yeah,
about
it's the
something
Dr.
else?
Seuss thing. JF, yes, they can cut your gas too, but you could store a bunch of gas and hold yourself off for a little bit, right? You could store gas a lot easier than you could store electricity because those, first of all, those batteries are super hella expensive, and it's just that's all I'm saying. It's easier to control.
Gotcha.
Like for instance, if you have an electric car, that's why a lot of these newer cars they have a system in place where if the police are in a chase with you, they can just turn your car off.
That's crazy. Yeah. They can do all
Which
types of
is
stuff. I heard they
pretty
have
nice.
one where if you don't pay your note, they can make the car automatically come back to the dealership or something like that, or to the bank. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yes. See, it's all about everything kind of goes back to control. least that's what I think. I think everything kind of goes back to control. Um, yeah, they could just turn your stuff off. And with everything being a subscription model, nothing's really yours. All of that really plays into it. And these are the new problems that the younger generation has to fix or work through or try to survive, but they also have to deal with the problems of old. Our problems with relationships. I mean, I've been hearing the fact of marriages being ending in divorce at 50% for decades now at this point. So it's not getting any better. So
People are going to start having to get married out of survival, like in real life, because it's gonna be so expensive to live out here. Social Security going away. Many people can't find jobs. AI. People are going to have to get married now in order to
yeah,
survive and be able to live a sustainable life.
yeah,
But
and
marriage, y'all, I
see,
gotta tell you, marriage is fun. I'm gonna put this out here. I don't know. I always see all the hate towards marriage and all of that stuff. It's probably who you with, and it might be you too. But marriage itself, it it's marriage and fatherhood. But marriage itself is such a, if you're in the right situation, a peaceful experience. It's a nurturing experience. It's worth it. And I want to tell this to the young folks because I do know a lot of young folks are constantly hearing different opinions. Make sure you're with the right person. And when you're with the right person, your life can be bliss. I do believe that. But you got to know what you actually bring as a person, what your strengths are, what that other person needs to bring as well, and then work in harmony. And honestly, I recommend it to everybody. And I come from a broken home of a few different ways.
yeah, yeah,
You see that?
it's and see, this is why I love. I have to keep shouting out this channel because I've been binge watching, and he breaks it down so beautifully. Home math. He talks about why this is, and it makes sense. So you know. Through generations, we had rule and order, right? Law and order, that was a big thing. Shame was a big thing. So everyone had to have the basics to be within society. And so at a certain point, you progress upward and you get to this frame of thinking where you're like, well, we should be more accepting of people. So, you have the younger generations and you have the younger generations now, and they're being told that they don't have to go through that step of having law and order, having a standard for society, and they're just saying, oh, get rid of that altogether. But you need that in order to progress upward, or else you just stay in that frame of mind where all you think about is yourself. You have no sense of community because it wasn't instilled in you, because the older generations, they grew up with law and order, they grew up with shame, and they're like now at the point where they're like, oh, well, we should accept everyone. But your version of accepting everyone is different from the version of accepting everyone who hasn't had that law and order background, that shame, certain behavior background. So it's just like society is just going to keep deteriorating. But like you said, and this is part of that pendulum swing, they're going to have to start getting together to survive, and that's going to bring us right back to where we were. It's either you can go back to there by choice and have some agency with it, or you're going to be forced through necessity.
Yeah, life will teach you real fast. I'm seeing it more and more on social media whenever I do I see the compilations on YouTube, and I always see people complaining about life right now, how it's crazy expensive. People can't afford homes or rent. They're saying they can't even afford rent nowadays because rent is so crazy. And then you lose your job on top of that. And a lot of times people might not have the skill set to make money outside of a job. So you just spend a whole people who were out over a year. Some people have been out of work for over a year. And it's been insane.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to the people in these situations and especially the youth. You just I'm a man of faith, so I believe, my beliefs are that you do right in the world and right comes back your way. That's just how I believe. So I honestly don't think that the future is as doomed as it might be made out to seem. I think we're actually going to get closer as humanity in a weird way. I think we're going to have to be forced. It's going to be maybe what you talked about the villain. The villain is AI. The villain is the robot takeover that everybody cares about. and that's going to have to bring humanity closer to each other. And then we're going to need something else to anchor humanity too, which is why you go, Faye.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you on that. JF, you talking about you don't need shame? I disagree. I disagree. I think when you have a shameless society, you'll have shameless behavior. And that's what we have now, a lot of shameless behavior. If you go on TikTok, you see it all over. Okay, people doing get readies with me and they starting in their underwear. You should be shamed. I'm sorry. You need to be shamed for that. Like we have a society where we don't prioritize shaming certain behaviors to the point where PDF files are getting bold. There's literally this TikTok teacher called Teacher Bay, and the fact that she's calling herself Teacher Bay and she works at a middle school is insane. Shannon, I don't know if you saw this, but it's this woman and she has a BBL, boob implants, and she works at a middle school, and her whole thing is she dresses with really tight clothes that you know exactly what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're technically covered, but the way you're dressed is still inappropriate because you're accentuating certain parts of your body on purpose, and you're not getting shamed. You should be getting shamed for that. And you know, before anyone gets in and says anything about you wanted me to talk about Teacher Bay? Yeah. Yeah, that broad right there is absolutely insane. She you know, and Blunt Girl, your video was so on point, and the fact that she responded to a comment saying that she's competing with you know, the children, and she's talking about some oh, they can't compete with me. Oh, they, you know what I mean? But basically saying
Wait,
like, oh, I'm out there.
who is she the bay of though? Is she the bay? She says she's the bay of the kids or of the
That's what the
teachers?
implication is. No, that's what the implication is. Teacher Bay. Okay. And
Wow.
someone said, "Why are you competing with the kids?" And she basically said, "It's no competition." Basically saying that she's better than them. But you shouldn't even see yourself in that position. You shouldn't even be competing with the kids. Like you shouldn't even have this mentality of surrounded by the kids. Like it's so weird. And I'm gonna do a video talking about it in more depth. But Blunt Girly, you did a good job on your video because man, that whole situation was sick and twisted. But we do have two people that called in. We have JF and then Rome King. I think JF was here first, so I'm gonna let JF go off and say his piece, and then Rome King will get to you. But you're both up, so you guys can both talk. So
All right, let me know if it sounds weird because I am on my car phone again because I just got off work and I'm driving home. So if there's a delay or random whatever, let me know.
you're good. You're good. You sound good.
What's up?
Oh,
Just
Thanks
focus
for
on the road.
what's
Make
up?
sure you get where you're going. Let's.
Yeah, if you hear a big splash, that means I drove into the river off the gorge. No,
Oh no. Oh no. Oh
I
no.
should be fine. So we're talking about let me see the
Kids.
whether the youth are cooked or not.
Yes.
So just my thoughts, just having been having worked in education, been a coach, done a few things over the years. Um, Sometimes we make a mistake looking things at a like in a hierarchical way. So like, well, if we fix this, at the top, then we go down, or a linear way. We fix this first, and then this and this, and really what we have, it's a web of problems. It's a web. So it's a web of problems that are all like fucked up at the all the same time. And so going if I go back, this focus on education real quick when it comes to the youth. Learning is an active, like learning is active, and so you have to partake in something. You have to do something if you're actually going to learn. And so I remember, you go through schools late, mid to late '90s, early 2000s. Like a lot of your education, you had to be an active participant in that if you were going to learn anything. And so it was more than just coming to school and then sitting in the chair and then just listening to someone give a lecture and then just being done, right? As the years have gone on, that has slowly, whether it's because there's not enough time, like whatever the reason is, that requirement for action, like, is not there. And so learning became a very, passive, like, just a passive engagement. And that passivity doesn't just stay with learning, like, it goes everywhere. And so, oftentimes if we're making fun of the younger generation or something, we call them soft. And in a way, yes, but really the more accurate term is passive. Like, every there anything that requires work, anything that requires, like, a process to get through, if it's not short, if it's not handed to you, like, there's more steps than just, than one, it's not there. And that starts way, way, way back. Like, because as kids, if you're going to learn, you learn through play and things like that. That's also very active. And so the de-emphasizing on play, whether that's kindergarten, pre-K, the de-emphasizing of play to learn, like, all those things go hand in hand, and it makes a very passive child who's going through the school system, and eventually, as they get older, they're going through life. We with the school lockdowns and everyone learning online, that was also an added passivity, because, again, what are you doing at home? Like, if nobody's sitting there and having that structure with you, you're just on the computer, which is also a very passive process. And so, like, it affects everything. That's why you get the blank stares, when people at work, like, all that, because they've been conditioned to just sit there and receive and not have to work. You know, as adults, consumerism goes into that, because, again, with consumerism, well, somebody else is the one who does all the inventions, right? Somebody else is somebody else is making the technological advancements. Somebody else is producing this. Somebody else is doing the work, and I just show up and buy. I just show up and respond. And so that those issues just compound, and what you have is, again, just a very passive citizen. And then you wonder how crime goes up, how communities get destroyed, because, again, building community, building society, all of those are active processes. And I think until we get that back and start forcing our children to be active participants, whether that's in the home, active participants in their learning, to take ownership, responsibility, like, all of that, even reading, because reading, we were talking about reading earlier. Reading takes work. If you're going to do it right, you should be inquisitive. There's questions. Do you want to know anything? Like, all of that goes into reading. But if you're just accustomed to being a screen child, right? Like, none of that, because all of the content's there for you. You don't have to actively do anything. It's just, watch, be entertained. All of those are passive processes. So when that changes, everything else will change. And so, because, like I said, building community, all of those things are very, very active processes. And I think when that begins to happen, your society overall will begin to improve once again. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you as far as, like, the people being too passive, just allowing things to just happen. I think some of that does come from a lack of autonomy. It's multifactor. So you have people that feel a lack of autonomy, a lack of control over their life, so they don't even bother trying to control their life. And then also, like you said, society has made things too easy, right? Especially with the process of having AI now. They could just put the prompt in and it's done for them. It might not be done correctly, but it's done for them. You don't even have to go through the process of trying to figure out how to spell a word correctly, because you just right click it and it'll spell it for you. It'll fix it for you. So without having with everything being catered to you, you don't have to do anything for yourself. It kind of reminds me of the movie WALL-E. Okay, how everybody ended up in those recliner chairs, and everything was just kind of brought to them. They didn't have to move their body anymore, and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and lazier and lazier and lazier, and they couldn't do anything for themselves. So I do agree with you in regard to, you know, things being way too passive.
Right.
But I also do think that we need to bring back shame,
I
which
was going to say,
I
yeah,
hope you were going to
you
bring that
reminded
up.
me of something. Yeah, you reminded me of something when you said that. So there is a little bit of overcorrection that happens, right? Because we're concerned about abuse, we're concerned, we're concerned about violence, and rightfully so, right? And so we're concerned about bullying. And so to overcorrect for that now, like, I'm never going to tell you the truth. Like, everything has to be, soft pedaled. If I ever, raise my voice or whatever, that's bullying. That's mean. That's all this. We deal with someone. We share dealing with someone who talks like that. And when I was working, some of the schools I've worked at, there was a lot of that. And what people fail to realize, like, they're always the thing you're missing is a lot of times is relationship. So if I've built a relationship with you that's trusting, you trust that I care about you, you trust that I have your best interest at heart. If it's your own child, you trust that I've cared for you and will care for you no matter what. Then, like, within that context, yes, there are things that I can tell you, and when I tell you that, they're probably not going to be the nicest things. And that's okay, because what's around that is that relationship. What is around that is that trust. And so when I have that, then I am able to tell you, actually, you know, uh, shape up in this area. Your behavior here is piss poor, or or you know, you're too arrogant for the talent that you actually have. Like, you're able to have those types of discussions with people. Or, like, again, I remember telling a group of boys, like, you will end up just like your fathers who are in prison, if this part of your behavior doesn't shape up. Did they all run out, like, because, oh man, this guy's mean? No, I'm not mean. I said that because I care about you guys, and they know that because I have that relationship. And when discipline and things come out of that, that is safe. Now, if I'm, again, just wilding out and just telling you the rudest things possible, and that thing is there, then yeah, maybe you do have cause to say, well, that's rude, or that's bullying, or that's this, whatever. But if you build a healthy relationship, all those things flow from that. And through that, you make the desired changes, like, in the people that you're trying to. And so that's why I
No,
say, like, shame, I wouldn't necessarily say bring back shame, but, like, within the context of relationship, you can have those kind of conversations.
I think it's a little bit deeper. Um, Working with kids and youth, like at the start of my career, in family court, like a lot of that stuff comes down to parenting, and you'll be surprised how poor parenting is in current times.
Yes, absolutely. None of those things are there. There's no relationship. There's no, like, you don't check in on your child. You pretty
It's
much, like,
it's past that.
on autopilot the whole day. Yeah,
It's certain things that they'll even promote. So
right.
I
Absolutely.
I've seen things to where parents can send kids to school, and I've gotten teacher reports or PSI reports of where parents are literally telling the teachers, like, you only can tell me this. And it
Right.
sets a
And that's
standard. Like, the kid now learns a ridiculous boundary skill now, because now they can just be like, well, I can use this against any adult. It starts off as any adult that's not my parent. And it escalates
which
and
is
it
why we're
evolves.
mass promote home, because it,
Are you going in and out?
your kids a home kind of parents.
I thought it was
Jay, I'm
me.
going under a bridge.
I hope you didn't go into that lake. Stay strong, brother.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. You put it in reverse. I got you. We got you. We got you.
The edge there. Oh yeah, that's why I wouldn't ever mass promote homeschool, because you don't want your kids stay home with that kind of parent. Like, absolutely not. Please send them somewhere
Exactly.
else.
Yup.
Yeah, yeah, it all depends because yeah, some parents they don't have the skills to homeschool, but then also
Did you see what happened at the LeBron school when they went through COVID?
didn't they all like fail?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they went through the COVID. I recently watched that documentary they had about it. And during the homeschooling during COVID is when everything crashed, like everything. At first, it was kind of problematic. You seen the problem kids coming from problem homes. He basically built like a charter school in the hood, which was already kind of like a stretch in my opinion because it's going to require a lot of resources to keep that type of attention on a large scale like that. Um, but long story short, the bad kids are being bad, but they're being contained. He has enough teachers there, enough administrators to kind of deal with them one on one. COVID hits. Homeschooling must start. All the kids instantly turn retarded. I can't say that. All the kids instantly turn like impaired, mentally impaired. Can't pass any test on any scale, on any level, all of the sudden. So he's right about that homeschooling aspect to where you put the kids around the parents and it's basically leaving them to their devices with the parents.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's
because
facts.
a lot of parents don't know how to teach because some of these parents are slow too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Some of these parents are slow too,
I wasn't
and
gonna say
yeah, some of these parents are slow too, and not only that, how are you going to teach your child something you don't know yourself?
bingo.
And all the really good programs cost money. So if you don't have the money to buy those programs, and even then it's limited, because if you've had any uh interaction with like tutoring online, the kids could be sitting there playing Roblox while you trying to do the class. They could be sitting here doing all sorts of stuff while you trying to do the class,
Oh, you know they
and
are.
they're not paying attention to what you're saying, and you have no authority. There's no way to remove whatever it is that they're doing. The best thing you can do is just to tell the parents, like, hey, I don't think your child's paying attention.
I
Whether or
didn't
not
think
they sit there and do anything is up in the air.
I didn't think kids were that addicted to like electronical devices like that until I dated a woman with kids who wasn't active with the kid. So I got to see it firsthand. So we were eat. I'll never forget this because in my mind I was like, this could never happen with me when I was a kid. Like Jesus. But as I'm sitting there, we're eating dinner, and the kid has the iPad, and she's like, put the iPad down. And I'm just gonna call him N for now because I don't want to say his full name. Put the iPad down, N. He doesn't listen. He's in his own little zone. She says it about 7 minutes straight. So so I go to touch it with the tip of my like index and my thumb to kind of like pull it away. This boy, he's 7 years old. He loses it. Like when I say he
Ooh.
loses it, full tantrum, full active, like plate on the floor, food on the floor, full tantrum. And in my mind, like I'm having like a flashback in my mind. I'm like, what would happen to me if this was me? And I had iPads back then. I don't think I would have ever wanted to go back to the dinner table again. It would have just had bad memories all around it. I would have like me leaving that dinner table would have been the most sore moment of my 7 year life at that point.
Yeah.
Dude, I might not even be here.
Look, I'm saying like by hope in God's grace, I might survive that night. But as I'm sitting there watching the kid flail on the floor with the food, the first thing I'm
Ah.
looking at next because I'm still in shock, but I wish I would have looked at her sooner. So I look at his mom. She's eating like ain't shit happening. Like she's completely in her own world eating.
No correction. No correction.
And she looked at me with the straightest face, and I kid you not, do you want any more wine? Like everything okay?
That's crazy.
That's it's
Do
so
you
much
not
to
see
unpack
your
with that.
child
I'm
on the
telling you.
floor?
So
Like, do you?
so I found a way to sneak out of there. Well,
You
and
gave him
I
the
never
iPad back.
look. The iPad was by him. He didn't even care about the iPad. It was just a simple fact. Like I guess it was like a disrespect factor for him or something. I don't know. but the iPad was still. I couldn't take it from him. Like the iPad was on top of the macaroni or something. Like he left that alone. He was like, now you're about to endure me. Nobody told you to touch my iPad, Sturt. So now you're about to suffer my wrath. And in my mind, like I said, this could never happen to adults who raised me. And in my mind, I'm like, this could never happen with my own. Like if it was like my own kid, because I'm just like, there's no way. There should be like an instinct in my. If that was my son, there should be an instinct in his mind to be like, ain't no way I can do this.
I'm telling
Exactly.
you, well, my son, the first, so I never really cared for the iPads, right? I had an old teacher for third grade. Third grade, y'all. She had to be 75, and she used to call the TV the
Jesus
idiot box.
Christ!
Yeah, she was 75. It was a Lutheran school. So, they teachers, they stayed for a long time. And she called the TV the idiot box. TV. Back then when I was a kid, so I never forgot that. And as I got older, I was like, man, she was telling the truth. So for my son, he kept getting iPads. My wife, she tries to do she get it's like learning apps he does on it. But I remember when I first got it, it was YouTube on it. And I remember watching him. It
Oh
was YouTube
no!
Kids. He
Oh
kept
no!
clicking through, and
Oh
in a matter
no!
of probably 1 minute, he clicked through like 13 or 14 different videos. And he's like two. And I said, no, I instantly took the iPad, deleted that app.
It's
I deleted
crack.
any other app that had like Disney Plus, every app that had any type of content, I deleted it and left just the learner. And I actually made my own kids app. So I installed my app that I made, which is called Learning with Habu. If you guys don't know, you can get that on the App Store. And you teach your kids about shapes, animals, all that stuff. But yeah, I installed my app and let him play that. And then it was one day he tried to lose it over not being able to use the iPad. And I took the iPad from him for a month. And I
I'm
told him,
not
I
gonna
said,
lie
ain't
to
no
you.
device having that much control over you.
Do you think you
Absolutely.
should retain electronic devices to a certain age? In my mind, like that's my strategy. Like when I finally start my family, my kids are gonna probably think like we're Amish until they're like 8 or something. And I want them to truly live in that element to where they're like I did, like I gotta go outside, I gotta have some fun, like I gotta do this if I want to do that. You can't really exchange too much with kids and leverage like you used to because of that device. The device has
Yes.
all of the needs that they want for some reason. And the bike or the playground, a lot of that stuff is kind of backseat compared to it. But in my mind and my thinking is if you seclude it from them like how we came up, they might be able to kind of like adapt to it as soon as they hit like teenage years and stuff. And they're like, okay, I know there's an option to use it, but I don't have to.
Yeah,
She
I think having that balance of real world touching grass, I think we don't do enough with our kids. Taking
Right.
them outside to go play, taking them to go to the water park, taking them to the museum, taking them to the science museum, like different things like that. So I think that there could be a balance, and I knowing that society is going in a technological direction, I think it's important that kids are having access to these things, but not to the point where they're chronically online
I think that's the only
like you
reason
see
why
with the
they're able
younger
to
people.
use like the AI and whatnot and stuff like that for classwork. They're so like I didn't know how to type on a computer until I was probably like 9 or something, maybe 10 or more. So a lot of that stuff didn't come to me right at 4, right at 5. Boom, I'm already texting on the iPad. Like a
yeah,
lot of that stuff is AI generated already, so they're already being introduced to it right out the gate.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
I
I just
think
we
it's
just have
I
to do more
definitely think.
monitoring.
Actually, I'm all right. I'm good. I thought I muted myself, y'all. No, I wanted to add something to that real quick. I think it's a balance. And when you said, do we think you should withhold it? I didn't withhold because I'm on technology all day. I mean, that's how I make my money is technology. And I plan when my son turns 7 or 8 to bring him in and start having him help make some of this money too. So for
Right.
me, I control it. It's not something that it's a privilege anytime you get it, and even the apps that are on it are learning apps. So he's not able to roam anything except roaming learning apps or creative apps.
I'm gonna tell
So
you this.
drawing
I'm gonna tell
all
you
that stuff.
this.
But
He's gonna be able to sneak around it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure he
I
can,
can
but
tell he's that
yeah.
intelligent, and it's gonna be a point where it's just like there's no wall I can put in front of him. And I've seen it with kids in court cases where their parents, and at first I thought the parents were lying because it would be like, custody cases and whatnot. And they'll be like, my kid is still on this, my kid is still on that. And the parent is like, he keeps breaking past this code, that parental thing. He's able to find this information, the DIY to how to do these things. And at first I thought they were kidding because the kids were like toddlers, like they're like between like 4, 8, 9 and whatnot. But no, the
That's a
kids are
missed opportunity.
legitimately supercomputers now.
See, that's a missed opportunity though. If your child is able to hack
Exactly.
that stuff, that's something I'm leaning into. I'm saying, okay, cool. How far can we take
You're the
this?
healthy parent though. Imagine
Oh
if,
yeah,
if,
that's
if
yeah.
parents not on the same boat and one
Yeah,
parent is looking at it like this is dangerous.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
other frightening part about, like you said, raising kids to not be corrupted by society is having two people on the same page, whether they're together or not. And that's a
Yes.
major issue with the high divorce rates and whatnot. Both parents are rarely on the same page when it comes to raising kids, which is crazy to me because that should be something that overrides any emotion, any self concern, because it's just like this is part of me going into a future that like I know this is innocent. I know this child is
Hmm.
innocent beyond any other belief because I'm raising him like I'm raising him or her, and I expect both parents to think that way, but me seeing what I've seen, I just know that's a big proponent also to why certain kids are lost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Parents are selfish.
Yep.
But I love what you said, Shannon, about it being a lot like a missed opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, if and that's why we shouldn't present, social media as like this boogeyman or like this you know, temptation to the kids, because then you're going to just fuel their desire to be on it even more. The more you tell them, oh, don't do this, don't do that, the more they're going to want to do it. So it's like,
Hmm.
even the way we go about talking about technology, we have to basically remove the luster from it. Okay, remove the oh my god, this shiny thing that I have to be a part of, by
Right.
giving them fulfillment in other areas. Okay, there has to
Yeah.
be things, touch grass type of things that they can enjoy way more than mindlessly scrolling through these apps. But we have to also understand that these apps were designed to do that. They're
Yep.
designed to give you
Hmm.
little it's almost like the slot machine effect. I think that's what they call it.
Dopamine
um
hits.
yes, with those constant dopamine hits. So we have to show them that there's other outlets for getting that dopamine hit. Okay, not being addicted to it either.
I just don't want to
So
wake up one day and see my kid with an AI, a girlfriend or boyfriend. That's my
man,
vibe. That like when I've seen videos like that, certain stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Like I have no experience in that to even know what a red flag for that would be because everything is so fresh
yeah.
with devices still. It's still advancing and very fast. So like you said, the missed opportunity thing, you're right. If they can adapt that fast, that's why I said kids are the new supercomputer. I don't care what computer they make, kids are gonna be faster.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's a missed opportunity. Now Shannon, I know you said you got to get up out of here. We kind of went past your time.
Yeah, go ahead. You got a question real quick before I go?
Was
Oh
it for
no.
me?
Okay. All right. No, no, no. Just in general, I didn't know. So yeah, I gotta head off. Gotta make sure my family good. But I had a great time chatting with y'all, and y'all thank you for calling in. Next time, call in a little earlier because I would love to have a longer conversation with y'all.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we
Oh,
did
I
leave
didn't
some
even
gems
get a
aside here.
notification. I'm not even gonna lie to you. My
Ooh.
That's
notification didn't even go
crazy.
off.
That's crazy. Well, in the Discord, I try to share the
That's
streams
how I
and
knew
stuff like
about it.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to just share the streams and stuff in the server, because YouTube, they don't always send the notifications. Uh it's touch and go with that.
I ain't gonna
So
say nothing about it, but the algorithm. That's what I'll say from the algorithm.
Yeah, prioritize certain things, and this isn't a priority for the algorithm.
If we promoted certain type of movies and characters and relationships, I'm sure I would get all the notifications. But
Exactly.
thank you for inviting me on tonight. I don't know if you're ending it, but just I'm always happy to call up.
Oh, absolutely. I think I might do another call in on my birthday stream. I might do that.
Okay, okay.
I'm still trying to figure out how I want to
Be
do my
careful, like you
birthday
said. I
stream.
didn't think about the little scary moments until you explained it at the start earlier about
Yeah.
calling. So don't
Yeah.
do that on your
So
birthday. So just be careful.
yeah, no, I'll probably have it set up where you can't be you can be heard but not seen.
Okay.
Uh so that's probably how I'll do it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here. My co-host, shout out to him. That's the OCPD coach. I have him linked in the description. So if you guys want to check out his channel, he does a lot of really good deep dives into not just OCPD, but also about being productive, taking care of your mental health, all sorts of things. And the good brother, he has a video game that is ready to be wish list called the Retro Game Store Simulator. It's straight up fire. It's going to give you
Okay.
that nostalgic feeling. So definitely check all those things out. So we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Rome King, you have anything else you want to say before I end the stream?
Um, I would just like to say, I appreciate you for putting me on the platform. And second, people, please raise your kids properly. Don't let the machine raise them. And you think it's funny when I say it, but it truly can. And it doesn't raise them in the best way if you haven't noticed by just observable reality. Uh, don't let them be one of those kids that throw tantrums, please. But thank you.
Especially, especially sitting over here. You want some more wine? Like your
Look, look,
child's having a
look,
whole
I was
meltdown.
look, something in me broke at that moment. I was just like, "Nah, I got to get out of here."
I don't blame you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for calling up. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I will see you guys next time. Deuces.